Hello everyone, welcome to the research methodology. We are now going to cover the chapter 3 and that is research format. Remember, regardless of your topic, regardless of the nature of your research, if you are writing a paper, okay, an outline will help you, okay, not to only organize your thoughts but also serve as the template for your entire paper. If you could take a look in the internet or the published journals, okay, you can see different format, you can see the different outline heading of the research paper. But what's most important is that you have the right content of your research. Initial thing of writing of your paper is that you should write an outline because this will give you a visual reminder, okay, of what you can include, especially all the pertinent details of your research into your essay or paper. Okay, it is essentially a skeletal version of your true paper, and it will guide you through the entire process. For our objective for this presentation, we are going to identify the different format of research and thesis. Let us differentiate research from thesis and dissertation, and let us understand the content of research or thesis part. But for this particular presentation, since we are dealing with the research methodology, we are going to use the publication format of the research paper. As I had mentioned, research format will be the skeletal version of your paper. It will give you a guide on what should be included in your research paper. If you read different articles, the sequence and the arrangement of the journal or the paper is not that similar to one another. Okay, some of the article you may see research problem, but in some other articles they omit research problem. Instead, they include that in their introduction and their theoretical framework. There are several few majors of formatting styles used in academic texts. It includes AMA, Chicago, Toravian, and the common APA style or APA style. Okay, so AMA is the American Medical Association, intended for medicine, health, and biological science. APA is used for education, psychology, and the social science. So that is stands for American Psychological Association. For Chicago, this is a common style used in everyday publications like magazines, newspaper, and books. For Modern Language Association, this is normally generally being used for English, literature, arts, and humanities. And for Toravian, another common style designed for its universal application across all subjects and disciplines, like for multipurpose formats. What are the general formatting guidelines? So you can see the important component of an APA style, okay? Number one, you have the title. Number two, the abstract. Number three is the body, which includes the headings, subheadings. So normally you could see here um, the background of the study, the theoretical framework. You could see here also the statement of the problem, the related literature, the methods, and then the results and discussion, then conclusion and recommendation. So that is the major component of the body. And the last part is the references page. Okay, some journals, since for publication purposes, they do not include appendices in the paper. The last part is references. Title page. Okay, so your title page includes your the title of the paper, the author's name, the name of institution, which the author is affiliated, and then header at the top of the page with the paper title. This title page would depend on the journal. Initially, if you're going to submit paper in international publication, they're going to require you to submit anonymous title page, meaning um, you should not include uh, your name or your affiliation in the title page. But for some publication, they just ask you to submit the whole paper. Some journals, when they ask you to submit a title page, it must include the author's biography. Okay, the affiliation, the short explanation of who is the author, the line of the research, or some research statement. The abstract is the bird's eye view of your paper. It is the brief summary of your findings. Okay, the standard number of characters or words in abstract must only up to 150 to 250. Okay, there, of course, it vary on the different journal that you are going to apply for. Some journals requires only like 175. Some journals requires only up to 200 words. Okay, an abstract does not need to be provided in every paper, but an abstract should be used in papers that include a hypothesis. So if you have an hypothesis, the general ruling is that you should have an abstract. If you don't have an hypothesis, you don't have to put an abstract. But nowadays, it is one of the main requirements, okay, for application of journal publication. And the last thing is, when you write your abstract, you should start a very short introduction, one to two sentences, then the method, the objectives, the findings, and the conclusion of your research study. This is only a brief introduction. Okay, but some publication, they are asking for like the highlights of the research study, but that could be another requirement. Next is the introduction. Remember, when you write your introduction, the reader should initially understand the direction of your paper. Okay, this is the most important element of any research paper and open written last. Okay, so this is because the purpose of the introduction is to grab the attention. I told you that once the reader read the first sentence of your introduction, they could already know what will be the next thing to expect, or they already be given an idea the content of the entire paper. And the secret is, when you write the introduction, it comes from the general perspective down to the narrow topic, which will give an opportunity for the reader to be hooked, okay, in your paper. The body is the heartiest part of the essay or thesis. It includes the fact-rich paragraphs. Okay? In journals or in research paper to be published, okay, the longest page that you may write is up to 20 pages. Okay? As much as possible, because as I had told you, some publications, they delimit the article into 4,000 words, 5,000 words, 6,000 words, up to 7,000 words, okay? Depending on the nature of the study and the journal. Okay, so that's why in your body you have to include the important information in a concise manner. Okay, no, you should not write long introduction. Okay, for journal publication, just write what is important. If you could see some journals, they have only like two sentences per paragraph, three sentences per paragraph. Okay, because they limit the usage of words. Okay, it should provide some insights of the method that is being used and an investigative points or answer to questions pondered. And for the conclusion, typically does not offer new information but rather only summarize. Take note, for the conclusion, you don't discuss the result. You only summarize the result because the implications, the discussion is in the other part of the research study. Okay, so it is a mandatory to also reiterate and emphasize that this is a statement and mention any future research. Okay, so you always write at the end of the conclusion that some of your recommendations go. So you could suggest further studies. You could suggest on the study in the other aspect area of the industry and a lot more. Okay, so you can see here the research standard format, abstract, introduction. In introduction, you could see the theoretical framework, research problem, and review of literature. And then followed by methods, results, and references. And we are going to use this format. Okay. For academic standard of thesis, this is the traditional format. We have 5 chapters, okay? First, we have the title page and abstract, okay? Chapter 1 covers the problem and the introduction of the study. And that includes the background of the study, theoretical framework, purpose of the study, statement of the problem, hypothesis, scope and delimitation, significance of the study, and definition of terms. And it also includes the review of literature, and this, when you write a related literature, it comes from the global perspective of practices down to the regional, down to the local. It's a big idea first and then going down to the small idea. Okay, if your topic is about best practices, okay, you have to uh, you have to look for a research study, okay, related to your topic, okay, the best practices in accounting. So you have to get a lot of related literatures, best practices in accounting. Again, and the outline will be best practices in manufacturing industry, then goes down to the, okay, your particular aspect of the industry. Okay? And synthesis, you have to summarize the differences and the similarities of those related articles that you had gathered to your study. You have to connect those theories, okay, to your study. It should promote that those theoretical framework agree, okay, somehow to your topic. Okay, so that could be your synthesis. And the methods of research, the research design, qualitative or quantitative. Um, I'm going to give you a discussion for that. And then research instrument. Okay, are you going to use survey questionnaire? Are you going to use like second data, or for qualitative? Are you going to do like filming, or you're going to do some observation or immersion to the situation? The sampling procedure, how are you going to choose your population and how many, what size. Normally, it should be 20% of the total population. Okay, you can do random sampling, purposive, or convenient sampling. Then, how are you going to collect the data, and how are you going to validate the data? And then, the method of analyzing uh, the data, either statistical instrument, okay, or thematic coding, or you're going to use some tools of interpreting your result. And finally, second to the last is the discussion, followed by the conclusion and recommendation. then references and appendices. Okay, the student thesis, the standard number should not less than 100. It should be more than 100 to make the paper more quality in nature. Okay, if it is more than 100 according to the assumptions of the researcher, it is just like a case study because of the limitation of the information written in the paper. Okay, so what is abstract? Okay, abstract, as I had mentioned a while ago, this is the summary of your paper, including the research problem, the method being used, the key results, and the conclusion. It is roughly 10 sentences, okay, or not more than 150 or 200 words, depending again with the journals that you are going to apply for publication. For the introduction, it should capture the attention of the reader, and it includes the purpose of the investigation, what is the problem being investigated, the context, the importance of your study, and do not forget to cite or mention some previous work by others, but do not start your introduction with according to. Normally, the introduction start with definition of the keywords that you are going to use. So if your topic is about environment, you have to environmental practices. Okay, you have to define what is that term. Okay, and the connection to the other area of your studies. Here are some of the guidelines on how you are going to write your introduction. First, you have to keep your sentence short. Okay? Do not repeat your title. Make it brief and do not use you more open. So maybe at least once. Some journals, they are accepting using the personal pronouns like I, me, you, him, they, though. Okay, to make it a little bit formal or to make it formal, the writers or the publication is encouraging the researcher or writer to write or to use the third person, like the researcher, the author, not the not do not use the personal pronoun. Next is you should dedicate the 1 to 2 sentences to articulating what the article covers. You can also dedicate 1 to 2 sentences explaining why the article is important. You have to highlight that and refer to a concern or problem your readers might have. Okay, and be careful. You might be telling a story. Okay, you have to state the fact of also of the reality and also the results or the findings of other or author. Okay, use a stat or fact to convey importance. You have to make some references. Okay, this is the moment that you're going to cite the authors according to, and then you state the statement, and then either you mention the name directly or you use open and close parentheses with the surname of the author you had cites and then the year that it has been published. Theoretical framework. It develops the theoretical basis for your design or experimental work, including any governing equation. So this theoretical framework will give you a backbone of why you are writing the research. So this part of the study will provide an evidences, okay, that your research topic is valuable or important, or it's like saying there's a sense why you are writing this kind of paper. Okay, so you're going to have some like support research study agreeing, okay, or confirming that your study is that your study will create some implications. If the theory shows like some calculations or computations, you may refer it to the appendices. research method. This is how are you going to answer your problem? How are you going to answer your questions? You have to identify what materials, apparatus, and procedures you had used. You have to list and describe key materials, okay? You have to describe the procedure that had been undertaken. Is it duplicated or copied, or you create your own process, okay? For design studies, this section includes component design, fabrication, assembly, and testing procedure. Okay, normally you could find here the nature of the study, like is it quantitative or qualitative? Does it use statistical treatment, or it's only a matter of comparing one study to another study? You have to very careful on explaining the method that you had used, because might be the reader would think that they just only copied the information to other article for them to come up with this kind of finding. So you have to prove that your procedure is right, okay, and related to the particular question that you would like to answer, or a particular problem that you would like to solve or answer. The research result and discussion, this would explain, okay, this would explain and characterize the pattern and the quality of the results, and estimate the accuracy and precision of the data that you had found out and collected, then analyzed. Okay, so this research result accompanied with tables and graph. You interpret the table, you interpret the graph. Okay, do not make it long, just get the maximum result and the minimum result, and then you, for the graph, you just describe the pattern. Okay, you have, depending on what kind of graph you had used. Okay, so if you are looking for the correlation, so you could use histogram. You may use scatter plots, okay, similar to line graphs, and then you can use also plot data points. So those are the graph that are being used for correlation, to correlate one variable to another variable. And if there will be too many tables and graph, you may refer it to the appendix. So you have to use analytical graphics. Every result, okay, is followed of discussion. So if there's a graph, there should be an explanation, and the discussion, it discuss the meaning of the result, is stating clearly what their significance is. So the pattern of the result and discussion is table, interpretation, implication. That is the normal pattern of the research result and discussion. Okay, you compare the results with theoretical expectations and account for anything unexpected. So when you do the discussion, you cite again. Okay, your result is similar to the author's research. The result is similar to, or the result is disagreeing to, that could be anything unexpected you have to mention. For the conclusion, review the results in relation to the original problem, and you have to assess the success of the study considering the criteria of success you gave in the introduction. Make sure the flow of your research problem or research question would be sequence, or what do you call this, like it should pattern also, or in order also with the conclusion. Okay, so if your problem is the related, is there any significance difference between two variables, the first summary, the first statement with your conclusion should refer to the first question. That is how conclusion is being done, the summary. First question in the conclusion, first answer. Second question, then second result or answer with the problem. That's how we write the conclusion. And for recommendations, if applicable, so if you're only intended for like information dissemination, or you just only compare, okay, and then you want to make some recommendations, okay, you can include this one. Remember, when you do recommendations, either more on like normally this is the fourth question or the last research problem, okay, your output, what output you can recommend, and then followed by further studies, okay, your future work, okay, or suggesting for a future work. That is the recommendation. Okay, so I only have a very short slide for the format because I want you to start, okay, writing your theoretical framework, your problem, okay. Introduction is fine because even up to the last part of writing the paper, we could still revise that, okay. So I I already discussed the standard format of the research so that you could start. Remember, in your midterm, you have to submit the introduction, the theoretical framework, the related literature, and then the method. Okay, so those first three main parts of the body of the research study. Okay, so I'm going to upload the format, okay, in the CTL so that you may follow the writing of the first three major part of the research study. So if you have any further question, just send me a message and then I'll be more willing to respond to your question. Thank you, everyone. This is your professor, Dr. Christine Joyce Simpao. Have a nice day. Thank you.